Congrats on a great first season here.
Thank you.
Can you kind of just explain what the locker room was like just now, the emotions, and just knowing a great season is over?
Well, I think this team has accomplished a lot this year, and we, didn't end the way we'd like it to, and you certainly don't, want to see your seniors go at any time, but specifically at home, and just think in the locker room, just making sure Maddie and Joe realizes that they left this program better than they found it, and just how thankful we are for what they did, and just encouraging those young kids, because, our sophomores have been playing for, almost for 2 years, and, they're experienced, and that we're going to need them to return and, just be ready to pick up where we left off in terms of the success that we had this year.
Joe mentioned part of your message in the locker room was that this program is headed in the right direction. What have you seen them do this year that makes you so confident in that?
Well, I think just, next man up. Keely O'Halloran stepped in and had a great second half of the season when Alexis Cortez went down, and just the progress that we've made coming off of a tough start in the Mountain West Conference. We dug our heels in this conference. We know that, night in and night out, there's no easy games in this conference. So just proud of what we did down the stretch in this conference, and, taking very good teams down to the wire those last couple of games in the conference.
And can you just kind of talk about the things that you guys struggled with in the second half, while Utah Valley seemed like they were hitting everything, what your team was kind of struggling with there?
Well, what I saw, that team dug their heels in. They, we can't give up 47 points in 2 quarters and expect to win a game. And, to be perfectly honest, I felt like they, while winning is important to us, I felt like they wanted it more. And they beat us at our own game. That was just an example of what pressure defense can look like. And they had 5 people out on the floor, everyone, down, ready, and we didn't have that. So, like I said, they just beat us at our own game. What we've done defensively in this program kind of has been the foundation of this program, and we got to get back to it.
Hi, Marissa with the Colorado Springs Gazette. You mentioned Keely just a second ago. Can you just talk a little bit more about what went into her performance today?
Well, we always depend on Keely to knock down shots, and, she had a tough start to the beginning of the season, but certainly hit her stride in the second half of the season, and, she was 4 for 6 from 3, and we got to have her out there, and she's great at stretching the defense, so, we're definitely going to need her to hit open shots again next year.
Absolutely. And can you talk a little bit more about the camaraderie on the team and how that's evolved and grown throughout the season?
Well, I always say basketball season you start early in the fall and you go all the way through the spring, and we spend a lot of time together. So, it is our basketball family, and I think, Joe mentioned that, and anytime, you spend this much time together, we have to make sure that, as it's what we're doing on the court is extremely important, that, from a family standpoint, that we emphasize that and make sure that, we're moving in the right direction in terms of having a positive team culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you talk about the how Madison and Joe are leaders on the team and just some examples of that?
I think they just epitomize just leaders of character, and, while neither of them are, the most vocal, I think that they led by example. And I just told Madison how much we appreciated just every single night, how hard she played and how committed she was. And I think, while, some nights what Joe did and the great things that she brought to this program didn't always show up in the stat sheets. But, the fact that she is 6th in the nation in assist-to-turnover ratio, is absolutely amazing. So we're definitely going to miss both of them.
Yeah, for sure. And what does the aftermath of this game look like? Are you going to have a period of rest before you get back in the gym, and what does that look like?
Well, we do, and we will. And, So, kids will have some travel and some downtime this week before we get back to, getting back to just getting back in the weight room and just, starting what we need to do from a, strength and conditioning standpoint.
You guys show this, but what are you most proud of your team of this season?
Just the progress that we made. We had a great preseason, and we dropped some early games in the conference, and we hit our stride a little later in conference than we would have liked, but I'm just very proud of, how far this team came and the adjustments that they made. And I think any time that you have a new coaching staff, it's a transition. So I'm just really proud of how they welcomed our staff. But just, overall, while we would have liked to have had our 19th win tonight, I am very grateful for the season that we did have.
Yeah, and speaking of that, what's the biggest thing that you've learned this year as your first year as a head coach?
Well, I've learned a lot, and I've made a lot of, small lists of things to do better, but I think, it's different when you've been in the second chair for so long. You have certainly a different responsibility when you've moved out of that position. And I've relied heavily on my assistant coaches, and they've done a great job. But just more than anything, just understanding the importance of my leadership and how my role has changed. And while I'll always love recruiting and, still continue to be very passionate about that, just realizing that it's my responsibility not to just be there for our staff, but our players and everybody that's involved in our program.
Talking to some of you guys before this game, you guys were kind of just prepared to not even play this game. You were ready for the season to be over. So what was your mentality going into this game, and how do you feel like the team was just kind of preparing for this one?
I think when we got picked up for the WNIT, a lot of us were surprised, and the academy, it's our spring break right now, so it was just a shock, but we all locked in for practice, and we fought a hard game. I don't think anyone can deny that, but Utah Valley, they're a good team, and they fought really hard too and just came out with the dub.
What were some of the changes that they made after halftime that gave you guys some challenge?
They were just hitting shots with whatever we threw at them. We threw a zone at them, and they were knocking down threes, and a lot of our shots weren't going in right at the beginning. We had good shots at the end of the quarter and everything, but time ran out. If there was more time, maybe we would have had a chance, but tough game.
I saw you and Maddie share a big hug after the loss. What was the conversations like in the locker room and just the emotions of this team right now?
Sorry. This team has been the biggest personalities that I've ever played with, but we mesh really well. And they were definitely, if you guys sat in on our practices, you'd be like, dang, they want to rip each other's throats out. But by the time we get to the locker room, it's all love. And every time we're in a game, hey, you get more playing time than I do, I don't care. If Jordan's hitting baskets, I'm her biggest cheerleader. And I think that's a lot of what defined our season this year, is that we were just a family. And those girls are sisters to me. And that was a lot of what was in the locker room. And Maddie and I have been through this for 4 years together. So we just wanted one last embrace on the Clune.
And what do you think that you guys have done this season? How will that set up this program for the future? You guys have done things that no other Air Force women's basketball team has ever done.
I think that it just shows the girls hey, yeah, we're an academy. We have challenges that other teams don't have, but that doesn't matter. Don't use that as an excuse, and go out there, play hard, and play for each other.
Hi. So obviously the game didn't end how you guys wanted, but this is the second ever time the team's been in the postseason. Can you just talk about being part of that history and being part of this historic game?
Yeah, my freshman year we went to the WNIT and made it to the second round, and I think at the time I thought it was cool. I probably didn't think it was as cool as the seniors thought it was that year. And now that I'm in their position 4 years later, I'm wow, hey, that was huge for us and for an academy. And me and Maddie did it twice. And that's just the next girls can do it more.
And what was Coach's message after the game?
She talked a little bit about the game and what we could have done better, and then she was like, this program is headed in the right direction still, and she thanked me and Maddie.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think this is the closest team that you've been on, like chemistry and camaraderie-wise?
100%. I think these girls have my back no matter what, and don't get me wrong, they definitely make fun of me for anything they get, but we love each other for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you talk about the crowd atmosphere tonight and what it was like to have that home support?
Yeah, we were kind of shocked. Like I said, spring break is happening, so we knew we weren't going to get a lot of cadets out here. And then I don't know if everyone's like sponsor family or uncle and aunts showed up, but we definitely have a lot of love here. And I think that just goes to show, like, hey, like, people in Colorado Springs, like, they love these cadets, and especially when you represent them like our team represents the academy.
Yeah, absolutely. And how would you describe your team's composure, like before the game and then throughout the game?
We knew this was it could have been our last game, and so I think some of us were nervous, and yeah, I don't know. I think throughout the game, like, it was indicative of our season. Like, hey, we're down 15. Like, who cares? Stick together, keep fighting. We had tough stretches in the year too, starting off like 0-5, 0-6, and that's what this team does. Like, we're like, yeah, that was terrible, but let's just bounce back the next one.
Yeah, and what are you most proud of your team this season?
Oh, kind of like I don't want to like keep repeating myself, but I think families get frustrated with each other, and I think that you're gonna fight, but at the end of the day, like, none of that matters because you guys have the same goal. And I know all those girls out there had the same goal, and we wanted to do it for Maddie to get her to Washington, and they wanted to do it for me, and they kept saying that. They said, like, hey, yeah, we want spring break, but we want to do this for the seniors more. So I think that's what I'm most proud of, is just the relationships that we built